Let's develop our stockholding object as described in the story. We're going to let Eclipse create as much of the code as possible. So we're told that a stockholding object has a number of things. It has a string that identifies its code. It has an owner that's also final. So once a stock object is constructed, its code and owner are never going to change. Then it has a number of shares. And a price per share. And these are allowed to change. So in terms of a constructor, what should we have it generate? In terms of these fields, the code and the owner must be specified at construction time, but the num shares and price per share, there could be an initial price per share, I suppose, but the number of shares initially could just be 0. Okay, so let's get rid of the super. We don't really need it. It's there whether we say so or not. And so here's our constructor. And just to emphasize the fact that this .num shares is 0 initially. And we know that the price per share and num shares may change. So let's generate getters and setters. So we can generate getters for all of these things: code, num shares, owner, price per share. Let's select the getters of those, and we can generate those. And in terms of setters, let's clean up the space a little bit here. We don't need quite so much space. And in terms of the setters, there's only two things that can be set. Num shares and price per share, so those are in here now as well. So here's our basic stockholding object. Let's give it a toString also, because that'll prove useful. toString. We might as well include everything, code, owner, and so on. So there's that. Now the question is, on what should we base equality? So we're going to think about the equals method here and hash code. And equals is supposed to be enduring. In other words, if we look now and later, the object ought to .equal itself. So if an object's going to change because the price per share and num shares are going to change, we probably don't want to include those as part of our equals computation. So let's generate the hash code in equals based on the owner and the code, and we'll leave the other considerations out of it. And so Java Eclipse does its thing and generates the proper code for hash code and equals. And based on that, we'll be able to create some sets, let's suppose, of stockholding. So we have to do the usual import thing here. Let's get those set up. And then let's add a couple things to our set here. So let's make a couple of stock holdings. And I have to give for the constructor let's see what it looks like up here. So the code, the owner, and the price per share. So suppose this is IBM. Suppose it's owned by Ron, and the price per share, let's suppose, is 10. And let's add some shares to that. So I'll set the number of shares now equal to 100. using setNum shares. And let's add S1 to this set. And then let's set the number of shares to 200. And let's add S1 again. Now, because equality wasn't based on the number of shares of the price, if I print out this set, we should just see one instance of the stock holding object. And there it is, Ron, number of shares 20, price per share is 10. Let's make another object, stock holding. S2 is new stock holding. How about, we'll use IBM again, but this time Jane is going to own it. And suppose the price per share is 3 initially. And let's add S2, and let's print this out again. Once before we added Jane and once after. And let's go ahead and run that and see what shows up. Okay, and we see that the first time we just had one stock with IBM and Ron, and the second time we had both IBM Ron and Jane. So we've decided to base equality on the owner code, the code of the stock like IBM, Google, and so on, and then also the owner of the stock, Ron, Jane, and whoever.